I'm incredibly pleased to welcome our next guest. He's the Executive Vice President of the Trump Organization and son to the President, Eric Trump, and also a good friend of mine. Let's bring that out right off the top. Eric, thank you for joining us. You know, I'm watching these polls, and we have these discussions about polls every 4 years. And if you remember 4 years ago, I said, stop watching the polls, watch the people. That's what really matters. However, talk to me about the recent move in the polls over the last 60 days. It seems to be tracking literally seems to be tracking the coronavirus cases. What are your thoughts?
Listen, my thoughts are they try and do this every single time, Eric, and you've seen it before, and you're no stranger Washington, D.C., and exactly why they do it. And I think for the people of the country, I mean, the reason they put suppression polls out there is they think it's going to squash enthusiasm, or they think it's going to squash fundraising. It's the reason they do it every single time. If you remember, I'll never forget a poll that we had exactly 2 weeks before Election Day in 2016. It was ABC, Washington Post. And they said that we were 13 points behind. Now, they oversampled Democrats by 11%. They oversampled many different types and groups of people in the poll. And actually, when we were looking at the poll, we said, if this is the poll, we're actually going to win, because that's how. And they do it on purpose, Eric. And you know they do it on purpose. And many of these polls are agenda driven. And even the polls that got it most wrong in 2016, the same big news organizations are using them again in 2020, because they're effectively telling them what to say, how to poll, what they want the message to be. And again, they try and do it to dry up fundraising. They try to do it to suppress voters, to suppress enthusiasm. And I'm telling you, Eric, we are going to win in 96 days or 97 days. We are going to win this election.
You know, Eric, and I tell the audience, you need to go internals on the polls, find out what they're using, the methodology. It's called the methodology. Look at your margin of error. You can apply that to both candidates. If you look at it straight down the line in the swing states, because that's where the presidency is won and lost, in the swing states, we all know California, Illinois, and New York are going to go for the Democrat. We all know Texas is going to go for the Republican, et cetera. So you got to look at the methodology. Eric, what are the issues? Is COVID-19 one of the main issues? Because, 6 months ago, it was the economy and our security. Now, all of a sudden, it feels like COVID-19 and defunding the police are the issues. Define the issues for the Trump campaign.
Well, listen, I think there's a lot of issues. I think defunding the police is a massive issue, right? You see anarchy in the streets, and I can tell you Americans do not like when the men and women in blue are having bricks thrown at them, having pieces of PVC sharpened and hurled at them through the air. Americans fundamentally don't like that. We are a law and order society. It's what my father stands for. That's what he cares about. Americans don't like paying more taxes. Biden came out 2 days ago and said, he's going to tax America $4 trillion more. So 82% of people's taxes were going to go up across this country. People don't like that. People are obviously scared of COVID, as they should be. And I think people want to hold China, frankly, accountable for the damage that they've caused to not just America, but the entire world. And my father's doing an incredible job with the vaccines. He gets zero credit for it. He's doing a great job with that. He's done a phenomenal job with testing. And, I think people do see that. But, I think people want a country that's based on law and order. I think people want to be able to go to work, have a great job, bring manufacturing back to this country, have a safe country, have a powerful military, have the best fighting machine that we have ever had, have vets that are taken care of, have a great economy, have jobs, not be ripped off by the entire world. And it's exactly what my father has focused on for the last 3.5 years. And I think he's done, Eric, I really think he's done an awesome job. I'm really proud of him.
So, Eric, and my job here is to analyze the race and talk about the race and have my audience understand what's going on. I did it in 2016. I'm going to do it again. Your father was on the offense in 2016. He was the outsider. He was looking in saying, we got to change things in D.C. I'm going to look here, and I'm watching this race. We're 90-something days left until the election, and Joe Biden has been quiet. He hasn't been out in front. But your father hasn't attacked the other candidate right now. He seems to be playing a little bit of defense with COVID and a little bit of defense with defunding police. Where is the aggressive go after him the way he went after his competitors on the GOP until he was the nominee, and then Hillary Clinton when he was the nominee? Where is that attack on Biden? What do you guys think of Biden?
Well, listen, I'll certainly start with what I think of Biden. Biden called Arizona a city yesterday. 2 days ago, he called Arizona a city. You can't make this stuff up. A month ago, he said he was running for the United States Senate. He's running for the president of the United States. The guy can't get through a sentence, Eric, without fumbling, right? Even when he takes questions, he takes them from, pre-selected reporters with pre-screened questions. He's looking at teleprompters when he's doing it. The other day he was in New Hampshire and he said he was in Vermont. right? I mean, you can't make this stuff up, and it's why his campaign is protecting him. They don't want him to go out. And then you look at a guy who's been in Washington. I'm not the youngest guy in the world. I'm not the oldest guy in the world, Eric, but the guy has been in Washington substantially longer than I've been alive, and he blames the problems of this nation, on my father. And it's really interesting. Every time he comes out, oh, it's Trump's problem. It's Trump's problem. Well, he forgets that him and his predecessor were there, twice as long as my father has been in office right now. And he forgets that he was in Washington for 40 years outside of all of that. And, all the problems happen to fall on Donald Trump's lap, who's a business guy who came in to save this country from, the radical Democrats who would otherwise love to destroy it. And you see what they're doing in cities that they control all across the country. Look at what they're doing in Chicago, Eric. Look at what they're doing in Seattle and Portland and my own city here in New York. Look what they're doing. Look what they're focused on. It's anarchy. And I think voters are going to, they might be intimidated to say it, but I think voters are going to check that box every single time because people aren't into this stuff.
Yep. I'm going to leave it there. We ran out of time, but I'm going to use the old analogy. I mean, Muhammad Ali, Biden's pulling a rope-a-dope, and he's leaning up against it, and he's not really taking any punches. So just waiting to see what happens here going forward.
He's going to take plenty of punches, believe me. I promise you that.
Eric Trump, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Eric. See you.